Hello and welcome to the DSP Leaders World Forum 2021. I'm Guy Daniels, Director of Content at TelecomTV, and coming up now is our Challenges and Opportunities Roundtable, where we'll be discussing how to develop the skill sets required for the migration to a cloud-oriented DSP. For decades now, telcos knew their role and what skills they needed, but then along came the cloud and changed everything. Now, not only do telcos have to acquire new skill sets, but they have to compete with many more companies and sectors to obtain them. It's a major challenge, so how do they overcome this? Well, let's find out what our guests think, and I'm delighted to introduce Angela Jenner, Transformation Director, Service Platforms at BT, Susan James, Senior Director, Telecommunications Strategy at Red Hat, and Ildiko Vansha, who is Ecosystem Technical Lead at the Open Infrastructure Foundation. Hello everyone, and very good to see you all. Thanks for taking part in our round table. Now, we've put together some discussion points based on input from our TelecomTV viewers. So here's the first argument we received, and I have to say the most popular one, and that is telcos are simply not attractive to the very best, the very top tech talent. Angela, I'm going to ask all three of you this question, but Angela, if you don't mind, I will start with you as our operator representative. Do you think it's fair to say that telcos struggle to attract the very best top tech talent?
I mean, Guy, I think that telcos certainly most recently really coming to the forefront in the role that they play within communities and within society. And I think coronavirus has really amplified the role of the telco and how critical we are, to obviously connecting the nation, keeping people working at home, keeping people connected with their loved ones. And I think talent is really attracted to a company who has a great purpose, and we certainly have that. I think that telcos are also becoming technology companies. So there's so much different technology that we're involved in and building, so much innovation that we're doing. I think that's really attractive to talent. We also really need to hire people who are smart, who are adaptable, who have a really natural desire to learn and develop, so that we can continue to kind of grow and nurture that and change as technology changes. So I think constant learning is going to be really central to future work. So for me personally, I think telcos and technology companies, as we're becoming, are incredibly attractive to talent. And I think we've got such a huge part to play in society.
Thanks, Angela. Ildiko, you enjoy this great position at the heart of the ecosystem, the open community ecosystem. Do you see telcos treated any differently to any one of the many other enterprise sectors there when it comes to those software engineers and those coders when they look for projects to work on and employment, or do you see that telcos maybe are still maybe not the first port of call for them?
I don't necessarily have the full view into people choosing between jobs, but in the past, I don't even know if I should say, over 7 years of open source that I've been doing, and I was doing the first 3 years of that working for a telecom vendor. I worked together with a lot of amazing people who worked for both telecom operators and telecom vendors. So I don't think that those companies are not attractive enough. And I also certainly agree with the points that Guy, I think you made earlier, that telcos are also becoming kind of a bit closer to the regular enterprise companies and just really picking up all the new technologies that are out there, which I think should really help a lot with kind of a more even distribution when we are talking about talent. I can see people moving around because when it comes to open source, then people usually on some levels keep being involved with the same or very similar communities. And then you can see that the job titles or companies changed. And again, I saw a couple of people that I think are really, really talented, and I learned a lot from them to move to telecom companies or stayed within that group.
Thank you, Ildiko. Susan, is this a case that as telcos embrace more enterprise-focused and cloud-based technologies, they by default become maybe not more attractive, but as attractive as these other companies to the talent out there?
I mean, I've been involved in the telecommunications industry for close to 30 years now, so I've seen it go through an enormous amount of change over that time, and I think right now it's as attractive as it's ever been, and I think that's not just because of the technology, but also because of the a wider implications of the sorts of things that we're doing within technology and communications. You know, we being connected is just so important, and the future of education, the future of healthcare, all of these things become dependent on connectivity. And people are not just looking at, you know, what's the highest paying job that I can get. They're also looking at how do I make a contribution to society. And I think, you know, it's very difficult to speak generally about a whole industry, but many of the players are really making concerted efforts to how do we make the planet a better place to be, and how do we you know, ensure that the future that we're creating for the next generations to come are, you know, giving the best opportunities that we can. And I think, you know, many service providers, many of the, you know, providers to service providers are really taking some very strong initiatives to address that. And that in itself attracts, you know, top talent.
Now, do you think telcos in general, not just BT here, but do you think telcos in general are not doing enough to engage with schools, universities, and other educational establishments to engage with the emerging talent, especially the younger students who at maybe an impressionable age, as they could see the opportunities that telcos could give them?
I think that we do a good job targeting universities, and we hold career fairs with them and a number of other events. However, I do think we can do more in moving to an approach to engage students at an earlier age. So whilst we work with councils and attraction partners to connect with schools, I think that there's such a lot more that we can do to help students really understand some of those careers that there are in technologies, some of the role that the telcos play. And we have a great apprenticeship and graduate program, and our apprentices and grads, they engage a lot with schools and universities, and really to promote, you know, the STEM subjects, but also to promote diversity and bust some of the myths that are out there about what it would mean working for a telco. So I think, yeah, we're doing a great job with the universities. I think there's more that we can do on the earlier ages of students.
Susan, do you think we need as an industry to do more on outreach, especially to people of a younger age?
Absolutely. You know, the first week I joined Red Hat, I was fortunate enough to go to Red Hat Summit, and there we actually had the students as part of the CoLabs program, which is an initiative that Red Hat and other companies have out towards junior schools, where we teach girls and particular African American girls to code, and they actually were then teaching the adults how to, you know, do projects with Raspberry Pi. So absolutely engaging into sort of middle schools and into earlier into schools becomes really important for, you know, growing the talent, as Angela was pointing out. But again, having the programs for interns to come into the company and learn about technology, I think, is really great. And not just from the STEM perspective. I mean, it's not just engineers that you know the telecommunication industry needs. My own background is not actually in engineering, so you can have a successful career in technology even if that wasn't your background. So I think diversity becomes really important, and you never know what kind of background the top talent will necessarily have when they come out of university. So, or even if they went to university, as many of the engineers in the industry don't have you know degrees in some cases. So outreach programs, you know, making technology is part of everyone's day to day. So I think the way we're going and engaging with students is something that all companies do, and how that impacts, you know, that next generation becomes really important as well.
Thank you, Susan. And Ildiko, you know, the whole open source community must be incredibly attractive to a certain demographic of young people.
Yes, definitely. I think it's a really big advantage for telcos that they started to become more active in the open source communities, open source ecosystems. because it is really easy to engage with people from really all around the globe, all ages, genders, and so forth. There are actually a couple of mentoring programs like Outreachy, for instance, who are really looking into reaching out to students as well as underrepresented communities, and making sure that they also get the opportunity to come and participate, learn what these communities are doing, what they can contribute. So I think if telcos are kind of engaging in these programs and helping these students, then it's a really good path forward in terms of kind of letting them know what sort of technologies are interesting in the telecom environments, and how they can move forward once they completed a program. Like, I think Outreachy is a 3-month project, and the students are working with mentors, and they have a predefined task that they need to complete, and I'm pretty sure that they can do more than just that task, but the mentors are guiding them through. So they are learning about the programming language, they are learning about the community, how to participate, how to interact with people all around the globe, and they're also obviously learning a lot from other people about technology. And if they meet nice and welcoming people who they can look up to, then probably it will also kind of lead them when it comes to choosing a career path, or at least their first jobs.
Angela, if we look at the telcos themselves, and this is not to focus on BT here, this is just that this is a broader question about telcos. You attend one of the large events, and unfortunately, the majority of speakers, the majority of people walking the floors there's a lot of middle-aged men in suits, and it's not purely a problem of the telecoms industry, but the telecoms industry is still guilty of this. Do you feel that we have to do more in terms of diversity in order for this industry to progress and hire and employ the very best talent?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, Guy. And absolutely, I think we need to do more in that space. And I think diversity and inclusion is very high on telco agendas in general. We want our workforce to represent our society that we serve. So we know that companies with more diverse thinking perform better. There's been plenty of studies that have been done about that and shared. And I think there's a number of different programs that we're running within BT. I'm sure there are many other telcos doing similar things. So we have Tech Women, where we're developing a really strong pipeline of senior female leaders. It's a 12-month internal development program. It really kind of benefits our employees through not only we're seeing better retention, but they're getting newer, sort of bigger roles and real shifts in confidence. So a lot of it is about building that confidence in our future leaders as well. We also are having a partnership with Code First Girls, and it's a new strategic partnership that we're going to have to really try and address the need for an increased pipeline of female talent within technology skills, and really focused on some of those future tech skills that we've been talking about. And I think, it's going to be providing free education to women taking the course and upskilling, upwards of 900 women. So I think that's going to be a very exciting partnership for us to be involved in, and really exciting to see where that leads. And we've got world-class technologists already working within these telcos, and we're really helping to shape some of those courses and really trying to help equip the next generation of women in tech with some of the skills that they need. And I guess also when we think about diversity, we've got an ethnicity rapid action plan that we've launched, really trying to educate and empower our colleagues on race awareness training, how to make our workplace more inclusive, and also leading by example. We've got reverse mentoring happening with our senior leaders. We're building a lot more transparency through data, and I think that's really going to help us to be able to understand where and how those shifts are taking place. And we're also really accelerating diversity through some sort of high potential sort of fast stream programs. So I think all of these things combined will really help to start to address that topic of diversity and inclusion within the telco and within other industries as well.
That's very encouraging to hear, Angela. Susan, as Angela says, we do want our telcos workforce to reflect what's happening in society. We do want more diversity, but we also do need the skills. We do need to focus on the skills that we need for telcos to actually perform and embrace the opportunities of this cloud world.
I mean, absolutely. And I think, as Angela pointed out, the metrics are something that you need to keep an eye on. And we talked about university outreach programs. We've talked about, how you bring in the right people. But I think one of the big challenges is also how do you keep the right people? Because, when we look at it from a retention perspective, we often see a lot of women or underrepresented minorities coming in, but also leaving very quickly. So they're having those support mechanisms in place, both internally within the company, but also being members of broader communities, I think is really helpful. So as an example, Red Hat is a member of WIT, which is Women in Technology, and that's a great resource for women in the company to be able to go out and get external help and have a larger community of people with, issues or like-minded issues that need to be, solved. So I think providing that support internally and through a larger tech community becomes really important. Because it will then help you retain and build that skill set over years. So I think there are many programs like that are really important in helping retain the competence that we've already been building.
Thank you, Susan. And Ildiko, I'd just like to move slightly to the left field, ever so slightly here. We're talking about the talent, the people, the cultures, but something maybe we haven't yet asked on this panel is, we're talking about how to get the best skills in-house, but we really should identify what those skills are. And I'm sure we could all come up with a huge list of skills that telcos need, but I just wonder if it's possible to identify a few of the leading skills that telcos need as they move towards a more cloud-orientated future.
I think just in general to find the people who are really willing to learn new things, because the world started to move real fast, and I also see telcos picking up the pace. Like if you look into areas like edge computing, for instance, telecommunication companies are leading the way there, and edge computing is really all about turning cloud into something new and addressing use cases that we didn't think were possible until now. And when it turns into things like cloud gaming or connected cars, I think those areas really require people not just to be sort of on top of their game, but also be willing to learn new technologies, new areas, be really innovative, and look for new solutions and new ideas. And I think it's something that is really important without kind of listing, 3 projects that you need to know today. I think sometimes we kind of don't really look at sort of soft skills as we call them, but I think they are just as important as some of the knowledge and experience that people already have.
Absolutely, good points. And Ildiko, you mentioned something very interesting there about the soft skills and focusing on the soft skills. And Angela, as Ildiko says, the technology rate of change of technology is extremely rapid at the moment, probably get even more so. So is it more important to hire and look for the next generation of employees and workforce who are adaptable and who are willing to learn? So maybe not recruited for specific skill sets, but can adapt and cope with this rate of transformation we're seeing.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree with Ildiko more. I think there's such a need for us to have the right sort of behaviours, the right mindsets, people that are a lot more sort of agile and adaptable, but also who will continue to be curious about learning and experimenting and learning new things. I think also from a soft skills point of view, you know, when we think about leadership, it's all of those soft skills that come with that as well. The sort of empathy, the authenticity, making sure that our leaders do create those really inclusive and safe environments for our teams. So I think soft skills is incredibly important. And as Ildiko said, technology is moving at such a pace now. We need to have people that are willing to learn and willing to adapt and change and upskill as and when technology changes and requires it. And I think that's only going to get more and more so, you know, as we move forward as well.
Thanks, Angela. And Susan, the importance of soft skills may be overlooked as we hone in on technology strengths.
Well, I think that we touched a bit off camera before. It's not just important to have people of a diverse background, but it's also important to hear their voice. So I think it's been really encouraging. I was doing a bit of mental math off camera before, thinking about, you know, some of the really interesting women that I have been working with in the industry over the last sort of 15, 20 years. And so many of them now are in strategy roles or in, you know, CEO kind of roles now, where they're not just, you know, doing a great job, but they're painting a vision of the future and, you know, giving direction to where we're going. And I think that becomes really important. So it's, you know, not just having the technical cred to be able to participate in the conversation, but to be able to take that vision to the next level and actually, you know, lay out that path for a broader view of the world. So, you know, you talked a little bit about, you know, middle-aged men in suits. You know, I think that it is changing, but having, you know, a diverse picture of people providing that vision becomes really important and will provide us with, you know, a much more successful future, I would say. And that's really dependent on those soft skills and being able to communicate that vision successfully.
Absolutely. Well, look, we've got two more points from our audience. I'd like to combine them into one, really. And this is like focusing on how much telcos have to do to develop their in-house programs to enable them to train their own generation of teams against how much they should rely on their vendor partners and ecosystem partners for them to do the work in nurturing and encouraging, especially, you know, technology focused talent. Ildiko, is there any benefits from using one approach to the other, or the experience you see in the ecosystem, is it still a bit of both? There's the in-house ongoing training versus leading to, you know, leaning on best practices from the ecosystem.
I think it's pretty much both. I mean, I've seen, talked to a lot of operators all around the globe, and they all have different approaches to what and how they do in-house, from the step of how they deploy and operate their infrastructure into like how much they are putting into like developing applications, for instance, and having, as I mentioned before, divisions around, for instance, cloud gaming, and all these aspects are kind of requiring that they also work on their kind of training and developing the talent and processes in house. But also, when it comes to the open source communities, you see a lot of collaboration. So you can learn really from anybody, no matter what the person does in their life full time, like who they work for, what industry that is, where they are in the globe. You can still learn a lot, especially because there's so much overlap between technologies now. And probably a bit odd example or topic to bring up, but there's, for instance, this new open source project called Magma, open source packet core. And companies like, you know, Facebook Connectivity are putting a lot of effort into developing this project to be able to bring connectivity to areas and people who couldn't have that before, underdeveloped areas all around the globe. And once, you know, companies are stepping into this space who are not telecommunications companies, from the get-go, I think that's where you kind of can also mix the workforce as well. And I think this will probably open up the doors to people moving between companies, really regardless of which industry segment that company is on the first place.
Thank you, Ildiko. And Susan, vendors have always helped the telcos. Are we seeing an increase in this now? And also, for those vendors who have a lot of expertise with cloud companies and enterprises, those are skills that I'm sure are becoming more and more beneficial to telcos.
Absolutely. Angela pointed out, just a huge wealth of programs that are going on within BT. And I guarantee you that every other telco on the planet has a similar kind of engagement because, they're so important to retaining the skills that you already have and talented people there that, want to take that next step. But, when it comes to developing new technologies and how do you bring that knowledge in, that is going to be something that you're engaging with different vendors because, they're going to be further out in that sort of development horizon, building the new technology. So I think as we move further out to the edge, it becomes much more of a collaboration between not only the telcos, not only the vendors, but you'll see the likes of the cloud providers, Amazon, AWS, Azure, and Google and IBM playing roles there, and also the systems integrators. So it becomes a much richer community of companies that need to work together to be able to address those opportunities going out. And you're going to have a cross sort of fertilization of ideas, problem solving, who needs to take on different things to be able to bring these new solutions to market. So we're going to be teaching each other, if you like, in a way, regardless of whether a cloud provider, a telco, a systems integrator, or a vendor in that mix. So depending on who in that chain is in the lead, we'll be bringing that skills back into the rest of the ecosystem.
Thank you, Susan. And Angela, final comment from yourself. Is it increasingly important for a telco such as BT to balance these needs, balance the in-house, the ongoing, lifelong training of its existing workforce, bringing in new apprentices and graduates, what have you, with relying on vendor partners and the ecosystem, and indeed your customers for knowledge and skills?
Yeah, absolutely. I think nurturing talent isn't exclusive to the telcos, and we all do have a part to play in that. And I think it's really important that we're all developing those skills together. And I think, as Susan said, we absolutely will use the vendor community when we need to supplement or when we're collaborating on projects. And I think as network meets software, that level of collaboration is so much more important now, and we're seeing it all the time, where even your software engineers and your network engineers need to work so closely together and need to upskill each other as they're developing the new technologies that we're putting out there. So I think it's all of our responsibility to nurture that talent, and we'll need to make those decisions as and when we're working on new things to determine how we source those people, whether it be in-house for things that are our core competencies, and where we use vendors to supplement that as well.
Thank you, Angela. And also Susan and Ildiko, thank you all very much indeed. We have to end our discussion here. Thank you for participating and sharing your views and opinions. Now, if you're watching this on day 3 of our DSP Leaders World Forum, then don't forget to send us any questions you have on this subject, and we'll try and answer them in our live after-show programme later today. Otherwise, please take a look at all the sessions from this year's World Forum. We're making them all available for on-demand viewing throughout the week. Today is focused on cultural transformation, but we are covering 4 other important topics as part of this year's event. And as you can see, we have a great lineup of speakers this year, so please do keep watching and get in touch with us. We really do want to hear your views. For now though, thank you for watching and goodbye.